Hey guys, what's up? So there is some harvesting that I need to do today. So as part of our tour, we're going to be going through and pulling some things, and we're just going to kind of talk about how things are going here in, what is it, mid-June already? Check out Kata just vibing behind me. So cute. And in front of me is Mr. Draco. And that's how you can tell that I've been sitting in this spot for a minute, because they just come and sit like kind of near me everywhere I go. Before we get into the main garden, I want to update you guys on these seedlings that are kind of in the graveyard over here. I just thought it was very interesting that all these leftover peppers that I have, these are hot peppers right here, they have been in these little trays since I planted them, and they're obviously way too big for their spot, but they are still making peppers. This one over here is making Buena Mulata peppers, so I think that's kind of interesting. We've got an unwelcome visitor. Draco is not happy. Okay, anyway, so one of the first things I need to do is actually pull this coriander seed. It is all brown and ready, so I'm just going to come through and chop this and set it on the porch to let it fully dry. So most of the harvesting that I need to do today is going to be all of these onions that have flopped over, and potentially even some of the ones that haven't. We'll see how I'm feeling. And then we have to check on the garlic as well and see how close to ready that is. So I'm just going to leave my basket there, and as we come through the rows the way we normally would, we will grab onions as we go. But first, let's talk about this trellis. We have so many more red flowers on this scarlet runner bean this week, and you can see the vine is already grown probably another foot, maybe more. I have yet to see any fruit actually set. You can see right here where all the flowers were, and they're just falling off instead of setting fruit, which it feels a little unusual to me. I'm not sure if it needs cross-pollination with another plant or something. I will definitely have to Google that. But currently we do not have any fruits setting on this plant. There's a couple more coming on this side of the trellis, and you can see they're about to start making flowers. So if cross-pollination is the issue, then that should clear up pretty fast. So if we take a look at our tomato row right here, I've got this blue cocoa bean right here at the front, and there's at least 2 more plants down there, maybe more, but we do have still lots of green tomatoes. We are waiting patiently for any of them to ripen. I still think it'll be a little bit, like I don't think next week we will have ripe tomatoes, but we do have so many. Look at that big one back there. We've got a lot of green tomatoes, which is very, very exciting. If you guys remember, these plants looked so sick when I planted them, probably because of that soil that I transplanted them into. And now they look great and healthy, and I'm just so happy that they actually are growing at a normal rate. They don't appear stunted whatsoever. It feels very lucky, to be honest. In between my tomatoes, I also have all this basil. This is definitely big enough for me to pull quite a bit from, and I probably should soon, because you can see this tip right here that is starting to flower already, and that is kind of something we want to prevent with basil, so we're going to chop it back a bit and just delay that all summer basically. But yeah, I could cut this plant down by at least half and it would be totally fine and come back even stronger. My purple basils have been a little slower coming in, but definitely looking strong, and also I could cut a little bit off of these as well. And if you look down here at the bottom, you remember when I planted them, I cut them right above the first set of leaves so that it would branch out immediately, and that is exactly what we were getting. So this looks really nice. This section up here is starting to get kind of wild because I did accidentally plant some determinate tomatoes that when I planted the seeds I did not realize were going to be determinate. Normally I grow only indeterminates, and so I've been trying to trellis them up a little bit, but I have not been trimming them the way I would an indeterminate, and so therefore they are going kind of wild, and they're taking up a lot of space, but they should put on all their fruit at the same time and then be done, theoretically. I haven't grown determinants in a very long time, maybe since I was like a first baby gardener. So my expectations of how this is going to go are going to be set this year. We'll see how that goes down. The two determinate varieties that I accidentally planted, one is Heinz, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's like the tomato that Heinz uses. And then the other one is Borghese, which is supposed to be a very good sun-drying tomato. And even though it is a determinate variety, if it does end up being very good for sun-drying, I will absolutely keep planting it because I love sun-dried tomatoes. This blue cocoa pole bean is looking gorgeous with its purple flowers and purple stems. We will be having beans from this very soon. These plants are always super productive for me, and you can see it just goes. Alright, coming down the second row, I definitely have meant to cut out these lettuces that have been going to seed, but I just haven't yet. Some of them aren't really in the way, but some of them have definitely flopped over onto other plants that I want to take care of, so I should probably do that today. But certain things I want to check in on. This eggplant that was looking really sad is finally starting to leaf out in a big way with big healthy leaves, so that's very encouraging. I also have this little lavender plant that I keep forgetting to mention to you guys. It's been here for a few weeks now, but it's just been so tiny that I overlook it with all the weeds. I started this from seed, and it is slowly but surely taking off over here. And honestly, as you're coming through here, the sweet peppers are starting to look really nice. Like, these plants might have grown by like at least 50% from the last time you saw them. They're actually recovering as well, but just much slower than the tomatoes and the eggplants are. And we've got little flowers and little baby peppers coming on. We'll see what the production of these is actually like after everything they've been through, but honestly, some is way better than none. Normally at this point I would start protecting blossoms to save seeds from these plants, but because of the rocky start they had and how I think they're probably stunted, I don't really want to save seeds from these plants. So because I am like very out of seeds in general, especially for sweet peppers, I'll probably end up buying more seeds next year. But you know, that's kind of an unfortunate cost of what happened to these plants. I have had quite a few volunteer zinnias in this area, and they look super healthy. They are happy to be here. That one actually looks like a volunteer basil, not a zinnia. This one's for sure a zinnia. These ones are also zinnias, and these two are zinnias as well, right in my path, but I think I'm going to allow it because I love zinnias. Some of these volunteer potatoes in this area are finishing up as well. You can see how much of this plant has died back, so that means it's probably about done. We can actually go ahead and pull it right now and kind of see what we're working with. I'm not expecting a whole lot because like probably the size of potato that was left here was small. These actually look really nice. They're kind of small, but that is more than I would have expected from just like a random little piece of potato that got left in the ground from last year. Cute. And as you might have seen, I'm just gonna lay this plant back down right here on top of the soil and let it decompose in place and also serve as mulch in the meantime. So the main thing we're pulling today is onions. This is one of the ones that I planted from seed. You can see that it tried to go to seed. That's what this bigger, thicker stalk is. And that is, I think, the only reason why it hasn't flopped over, because these center stalks for the flowers tend to be much stiffer. So I think it is probably ready. And an interesting thing about these is I planted these from like yellow onions last year, and they have almost all, like I thought that most of them were yellow because you see the tops, but as I've been pulling them, been noticing that they're all kind of like a light purple onion, light red onion. So that's kind of just a neat genetic thing. I can't super explain that to you guys, but they taste great. Because this one has the center seed stalk, I won't be able to cure it like I would a normal onion, but it's still perfectly great to eat fresh or to dry or something like that. So I am going to pick all of these as well and just kind of set them to the side as like, okay, use these ones fresh first, like as soon as you can. And if you want to hear all about like how to harvest onions, how to know that they're ready, what to do when you have like weird anomalies like this and other things, I have a whole video on that. I'll link it up here, and I'll also link it down in the description for you. Kata, of course, underfoot, chewing grass. We are going to try and get all of these. Oop, that's a flower stalk. These are pretty decently sized, although I do kind of wish that they had been bigger. Back here in the hot pepper section, I am trying to save seeds just because these plants didn't go through the same stunting as the other ones. And historically, I've kind of struggled with that because the flowers are so tiny. But I'm gonna try really hard this year. We're gonna see if we can get at least one pepper of each type that's gonna have seeds that have been protected. Also, look at this eggplant coming up. It is looking so good. It's obviously a little behind, but I mean, that just looks pretty healthy. Eggplant in my area always gets this kind of damage. I think it's a combination of slugs and flea beetles, but it never really seems to slow down their growth, so I've never really done anything about it. There's more potatoes back this way. Actually, a lot of this greenery you see is potato. And it hasn't started dying back yet, so we'll go ahead and leave that. I've also got these onions that I left that totally split and went to seed, which was the plan. I wanted them to make seeds for me because they were some of the best looking onions from last year. And I may or may not use them because I'm trying to get into perennial onions this year. But at least a couple of these, if I don't want to use the flower stalk, I can also just pull the onion early and eat it normally like those other onions. And it looks like we finally have mature seed pods on this Brussels sprout. Oh, that's a few seeds. They fell, yeah. Oh. We will have to plant these and do a germination test soon and see if they are actually viable or not. Okay, we're gonna walk down the other side of this row and we are going to check on some garlic. Let's see, which one do I want to pull? We can go ahead and pull this one. What you're looking for with garlic is for these bottom leaves to be dying off. We've got this one here, so that's 2 died off. And let's just see how it looks. Oh, that is deep in there. Okay, so we've definitely got a bulb here, and it looks like it is starting to develop into individual cloves. I think this is a fine time to pull it, but I could also wait like just another few days and have it be slightly more developed. Let's open it up and see. Okay, let's go ahead and peel this. Okay, so it looks like we do have individual cloves in here, which is pretty great. It's more ideal for picking than I expected looking at it from the outside. It looks super healthy. Look at that. Beautiful clove. Garlic can be used fresh very easily, and also you can cure it the same way you would cure onions. And yeah, so I'm gonna probably use this garlic ASAP and look at pulling a lot of that other garlic. Maybe, am I gonna pull it today? I'm not sure. I might wait another day or two just because I'm pulling all the onions today, and I think these are fine in the ground for just a couple more days. It depends on what the weather's looking like. Like if it's gonna rain for a few days in a row, I might go ahead and pull them. But if it's not gonna rain it for a couple of days, then they're probably fine. Also, Miss Kata came up. Alright, and let's start grabbing more onions that have flopped. I definitely have the flexibility here to look at like, okay, this onion, the neck is still kind of stiff, so it's like not quite ready yet. I could easily pull it right now, but because I have the size garden that I do and the flexibility to pull everything individually based on how ready it is, I'm gonna leave it. But like a big commercial farm would say, okay, most of the onions have flopped over, we're gonna pull all of them. But I'm just gonna be more picky and pull the ones that have flopped. A lot of these onions are kind of smaller than I'd hoped, but I do have a lot of them, so that'll kind of make up for it. Okay, so let's talk about what we're seeing here in this third row with the trellises. We've got noodle beans here on this first trellis, and they're vining up pretty fast. They haven't started putting on flowers yet, but that should be very, very soon. And if we come to this trellis, I finally have my cucumber babies. And I did have to go to kind of extreme lengths to get them. You can see kind of on the ground, this is diatomaceous earth. I think it was the, pill bugs that were coming through and eating them as soon as they came up. So now I have a bunch of little cucumber sprouts. They'll probably thin these out once they get a little bit bigger. But for now, I'm still not entirely convinced that something's not going to come along and eat them. So we've got those, and we also, this is a blue butterfly pea sprout, so that's exciting. And I've got them kind of all along this area here, and I'm about to clear out these onions so that they'll have just a little bit more space. And back here, these are the backup sweet peppers. I've definitely got a few larger peppers coming onto these at this point. You can see some of them back here and a couple here, and it'll be a bit before those turn red. But I mean, first big peppers of the year. Look at them. They're so good. And then at the very, very end of this row, we've got all the corn, which is very clearly getting to be corn sized at this point. I mean, this is obviously a few months out from harvest, but everything is looking good. It seems like almost all of them sprouted, and I am excited to have this popcorn when it is ready. I think also this section over here, now that my Brussels sprout seeds are ready, potatoes are about to come out. I'll probably plant a second crop of late corn over here. All right, let's check in on this fourth row over here. We've still got cosmos kind of everywhere in the path. I did put in a couple of these tomatoes. These were the extras that I planted because the other ones looked so bad, and then they recovered, so I didn't need these. So I just stuck them here because that's better than having them die somewhere. These will probably take over and fully vine out, and just this whole space will be their space. Then farther down, we've got some more garlic in here that will need to be harvested soon. A couple more zinnias. Oh, so pretty. And then, let's see, in here, this is mostly weeds. There is a black cohosh plant hiding in there. It'll be perennial, and it will eventually get big and kind of hold its own as far as space. We've got some basils in here. I'm trying really hard not to step on these zinnias. I've got a basil right here, another pepper there, a basil there. Down here at the end, pretty much all the poppies have gone ahead and flowered and have their little pods now, and these will make poppy seeds inside them eventually. Probably not enough for me to use them like a food, but definitely enough for me to, oh, look at this. Frand leaf-footed bug. Anyways, yeah, I probably won't be able to eat the seeds, but I will save them and try and plant them again. Hopefully they will also reseed themselves, because me planting them on my own was not super successful. But these pots look so big and healthy. I'm kind of excited for it. This blueberry bush back here kind of ignored, making lots of good berries, to be honest. And I assume next year it will be like twice this size. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And if we walk past it here, I do have this Egyptian walking onion. It has been in here for a bit. Hasn't died, but hasn't really grown either. I'm kind of just waiting and watching to see how that turns out. Can you see our little hunter back there? Hiding in the grass. So cute. So that is a lot of onions. All I'm going to do with them is spread them out in a single layer on the porch and kind of let them dry out. Basically what you're doing is you're waiting for the top of the onion to seal, and kind of like dry up and seal in all the moisture of the onion. And that is how your onions can store at room temperature for, many months. All right, let's check out the rest of the garden real quick. Mostly perennial stuff is slowing down. Like, it all kind of went to seed, and it is kind of steady in that state right now. I still have not fixed this problem. I need to dump out the soil in here and try again with that. We do have a little bit of growth happening in here. This calendula is just about to bloom, and also you'll notice the onions here, none of them have really flopped, so they are kind of behind the other ones. They're also much smaller than the other ones, which would make sense because the soil in here has not been the best. It is still some of that like damaged soil that all the other plants have been affected by, and you can even see the yellowness in the leaves on this plant. So generally not good vibes in this raised bed, but hopefully we can amend it over time, especially with all the perennials in here, and have them kind of come up and do a little bit better. Thankfully the asparagus looks like it's still doing just fine in here, getting established this year. This calendula over here actually is also just about to bloom. That'll be really pretty. And these garlic chives that were given to me by a viewer, these are looking like they're starting to get established. We've also got these regular chives over here. They're mostly finished flowering. You can see we've got a lot of seeds in here. Look at all of those. And this beautiful thyme under here. I am also finally getting carrot seeds. That's what's in here, those little brown bits. I think these are not quite ready, but definitely been pollinated and getting close. Everything else is just a little farther behind that because that flower came out so early, if you remember. All the rest of these still currently blooming, covered in, what are those, ants? I think those are ants in there. My sweet potato bed, the vines are just starting to escape, and at this point I have to decide, am I going to keep cutting them back so they don't escape, or am I going to let them escape into the yard and have sweet potatoes randomly in the yard? And I'm not fully decided on that yet, although the lazy gardener in me says just leave it, let it do whatever. Potatoes in this bed, these are the same purple potatoes that you saw me dig up earlier. These ones are starting to die back, but are not quite ready. I'd give them another week or so. Also the Jerusalem artichoke in here, fully getting established, and like I said, hopefully these will establish into this bed so that I can have like a perennial potato substitute and not have to physically plant them every year. I think these potatoes are just a little further behind. Quite a few of them have been flowering actually, which I was told was kind of rare for potatoes. So I'm not really sure what that means about their growing conditions, if that's like really good or really bad. But yeah, we still got some time on these, and I should have plenty of Sarpomira potatoes in here. Berry patch is almost entirely in full swing. 3 out of the 4 types of berries in here are currently producing. We've got our blueberries right in here. We've got our blackberries up there and our raspberries in there. The only thing not producing right now is the strawberries, and even then it looks like I've got a few stragglers that are going to be coming on later than everybody else. An absolutely gorgeous branch of blackberries in here. Perfectly ripe. Just falls right off the stem when you give it a little tug. And so sweet too. Raspberries also just kind of continuously fruiting. We've got some ripe fruits in here, along with some unripe babies kind of everywhere. I don't know how I'm gonna keep up with all these raspberries, honestly. I'm gonna have a freezer full of raspberries. And we can go ahead and do a quick check-in on these plants back here. I've got 2 figs and 2 citrus, and they seem to be coming along just fine. Of course, they're gonna be growing a lot slower than some of these others, but I've got good leaves coming on here. Lots of good new leaves coming on here. And then this one that was going through transplant shock is putting on fresh baby leaves. So I think it's gonna be just fine. I feel like it's gotten like 10 degrees hotter since I've been out here, and it's only been like an hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off and take care of those onions. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I wish you happy gardening.